Hey everyone, it is January 28th, 2017, and this is the Hardcore and the Casual Gamer. I am Steve McGauley, the Casual Gamer.
I'm Jesse Nelson, the hardcore gamer.
Alright, last week we talked a little bit about Nintendo Switch. Sorry for the crappy audio. I have fixed that this week, so I promise no more bad audio. It won't happen. But some fun stuff to talk about. Let's start with the For Honor beta. That's what I've been doing this weekend.
That's what everyone's been doing this weekend.
I would hope so, because I was somewhat excited when I saw it at E3. Didn't really know what to expect, and now 24 hours, more than 24 hours into the beta, man, I am enjoying myself quite a bit.
That's cool. I'm surprised by that because I enjoyed it. I'm more looking forward to the single player, I think, than the multiplayer, which we've been testing out.
I am less excited about that because I have no clue what it's gonna look like.
Well, there are videos out there if you're interested of the developers running through a couple of the levels. It looks like a whole lot of fun. Did you ever play the Lord of the Rings games during the PS2, Xbox, original?
I did play one, and I liked it. I can't remember which one it was.
The single player looks a whole lot like a more thought out, more technical version of that, which I think looks pretty fun.
Well, that's awesome. I'm intrigued, but I think the coolest aspect in something that came to light to me last night when talking to a friend about this, I was like, hey, you should go enter the beta and try to get your hands on this and try it out for the weekend for free, because I think in large part for me that's one of the reasons I love betas and why I enter myself to get into every beta, because quite frankly I'm not sure how much I'm going to like any game. So if I get my hands on a good portion of what the game is and can play it for a weekend, it really gives me a sense of, should I invest in buying this game in a post-blockbuster world. And we could talk about GameFly as a whole nother story, but as far as I'm concerned, F GameFly, because there's a horrible service to deal with.
Absolutely agree.
In my experience, I've tried it twice and been miserable every single time I've tried it. So we have betas, and it's been so great to be able to try it and see what it is, because on the surface, I sent a friend a video. It was Mark, and I said, and he's like, oh, it's like a hack and slash. And I was like, yeah, if you're watching a video on the surface, it may seem that way, but it's totally not a hack and slash, because if you try to hack and slash, you will die, and I have died many times for it. But I think the battling's cool, which we can dive into a little bit. And the coolest thing that really sucked me in, that blew my mind when I was kind of watching the whole video intro, which I think they did a good job of explaining in that video intro of saying, well, once you start battling and stuff, you are able to then put your players on the map and have your faction battle for territories. Like a la a game of Risk. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And it like changes every 6 hours, and it's on like a 14-day cycle, which I'm not clear as to how all of that resets and works, but maybe you understand it better than I do.
Not sure on exactly how it works either. I mean, playing on a beta for a weekend doesn't cover that 14-day cycle, so.
Yeah. Somebody else that's... Unfortunately, we are just two guys in our basements recording a podcast and don't have close access to all of this like some of the other folks, like the IGNs of the world that get invited out to these studios and might have some more information. So, unfortunately, I'd have to say check them out to see if they have better information on it, because it's really intrinsic as to how they're doing that multiplayer, and they're resetting the map into where you can battle for factions, and the idea is to encourage you to battle more so that you can earn more credits and you can drop more of your army onto the map and dominate more portions of the map.
It really reminds me of what Naughty Dog did with the Last of Us multiplayer. They did something not completely the same way, but they use information from all the multiplayer matches going on for how the world post-apocalypse was doing. And so I feel like that's what this is doing too, but in more of this actually impacts how you play.
I didn't even realize it had a multiplayer.
It was fun. It was a good multiplayer.
Yeah, I, like many of my friends I've talked to, have not finished that game because I keep running out of bullets and I suck. So.
Play it on the easier mode. Come on.
I think I'm on easy. I just suck.
This is true.
That's why I'm the casual gamer, because I'm just like, and it's really hard, and I'm not playing anymore, even though I'm intrigued by the story. It's
funny you bring that Last of Us up that in that manner, that you haven't finished it. I was thinking about it earlier today, and like, I love to replay games, but a game like Last of Us, or a lot of games nowadays, are so story heavy that once you've played through this one story, I mean, you've seen it all. What's the point of replaying it? Like, all the twists and turns, you've already seen it. There's not that much excitement. The gameplay, yes, was fun. Loved it. But, I mean, I played it on the hardest mode the first time through. It unlocked a harder mode once I finished it, but I thought maybe in a couple more years.
I've never understood that. It's like,
yeah, I don't either.
Like, and like Doom does this and things like that, and I'm just like, why the fuck do I want to make it any harder? I don't want to make it any harder. I just want to get to the end. I want to enjoy the gameplay, and I want to get to the end, and I want to be done with it, and I want to move on with my life. I don't need to go replay this. Same thing about Resident Evil does the same damn thing.
I mean, I understand why they do it. For a player like me, I want to play it on the hardest mode. I wish I could do that just from the start, instead of having to beat it and then play through it again on even harder difficulty. Just give it to me. But my point for bringing The Last of Us up is, For Honor felt like a game I want to come back to and play again. Like, the multiplayer felt solid and fun. It didn't feel like I'm going to play, 200 or 300 matches of Call of Duty and be done with it. For Honor felt like if there's enough people to keep this thing going, there's some strategy to battle it. Like, when changing your stance between fighters, I imagine people are going to get really, really good at that. And if you continually play this game for a year, it could be so much fun to come up against another player who is as good as you. You could fight someone for the entire match while everything else around you is happening, and that would be amazing.
That's what it was really hard for me to grasp, and I think it's. I mean, I'm getting it, and I'm getting better. I'm only like 3 or 4 hours in, so, and I've been getting beat because matchmaking sucks in the beta. It's a beta. I get that, Ubisoft, so no fault to you. So there's a few different things I wanted to talk about that, because it's weird. When I showed it to my friend, he was like, "Oh, it looks like that would get old really quickly," and I'm like, no. If you really understood it, and if you played through the intro, and if you played the beta, you would kind of get that the battling is it's an art to be good, and to figure out how to play it, and it changes with every character. Like, every character has like different revenges and different things you can do in different situations. So you can master one character and move on to another character, and in different scenarios, characters are better than the other. Like, because there's the 1v1, the 2v2, the 4v4, and I think as time goes on, you'll realize that I think maybe there's some characters that are better for 1v1, and some characters better for 2v2 and 4v4, and so on. So I think that's going to be interesting to play out. And the other thing that I think will be interesting to play out is playing with a group of people that you know. Like, if you get I found playing with people that you're not connected to, which is what I've been doing, has been very difficult, especially when the matchmaking has my team of where I have characters between 5 and 1, because because I'm playing with different characters, messing around, trying to see what I like. And my team is a 1, a 2, and a 3, and a 1, and I'm playing against a team that's a 12, a 14, a 9, and a 6. How the hell does that work, Ubisoft? I don't know, but I hope that that's got a flag on your server somewhere that you're realizing that something is not perfect with the matchmaking. And part of that is probably the lower player base, because I don't know how many people are playing the beta, so that could be.
Well, I mean, it's not an open beta either. It's a closed beta, so that really limits how many people are playing, which lets me know that they're not ready to stress test their servers yet. Which, I mean, the game comes out fairly soon, doesn't it?
February 14th.
That's what I thought, which is scary to me that they're not doing an open beta right now to stress test the hell out of their servers to say, is this game going to perform on day one, or are we going to have server crashes for the first 2 weeks like every game for the last 5 years?
It's a good question. Maybe there will be an open beta and we don't know.
That's true.
So it's hard to say without being in the middle of that development cycle to know what they do. For those of you listening that don't know, I work in development, mobile app development, so I'm very privy to how these development cycles work. And with a game, there's so much going on, and the server side work that has to go on is I don't fully understand it, but I know I can fathom how much work that is. So there's a lot of moving parts there. So either they have something figured out, or they have a ton of servers stacked up and they're ready to go, or we're going to see a more open beta after this weekend, which is fine. They still have a couple weeks, so it's out of the realm of the possibilities that they either extend this beta or have another beta next weekend to make sure everything's ironed out.
Hoping for the open beta. It would be very nice. And back to your point before we kind of shifted on to the technical side, my brother-in-law is who I played For Honor with just earlier today. And while I only played against some AI to get a feel for the game and to see if I kind of liked how it felt, he told me he's been playing with some of our friends that all got in on the beta. And the problem you're having playing with people you don't know, as soon as you start playing with people you do know, he says it becomes so much more fun. And like, even if you're playing against people that are higher leveled than you, you can still use strategy and beat them when you can talk to these people and say, hey, let's focus here or focus there or do this and do that. So you're absolutely right. Playing with people you know just makes it better. And you could say that about almost every multiplayer game, to be honest.
Which is something I like. That was something that I loved about Gears of War, that I think on the console side, I think Gears of War was the turning point in the console cycle of multiplayer games playing as a team and playing together, and the importance of playing together. That was something we didn't have before then, and I think with this we're going to see that even more. But for me, that's harder because I know so many different people on so many platforms. Like, I know you have a PS4 and are likely to buy this more so on PC. If I know you any better, once you get your PC up and running, which that'll be on another show.
Well, actually, for any multiplayer game, I'm going to purchase a PS4 because of what you're saying. All my friends own PS4s. None of my friends own gaming PCs. So it would be an illogical choice for me to pick a multiplayer game for the PC. Now, maybe I pick it up when it's $20 and play through the campaign on Ultra 4K settings. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I have my PS4 and my Xbox Ones, but I would prefer to play on my Xbox One because I've been playing it on the new Xbox One S, or whatever they're calling it these days, the 4K Blu-ray Xbox One, with the upscaling, and I have that hooked up to my OLED in my living room, and holy shnikes does this game look amazing on it. Like, it's probably the best looking video game I've played to date on it. I
I
don't
can
know.
see that.
I don't know. What was your experience with the?
It looked very nice. It looked very nice.
I mean,
it really did.
animations are smooth.
Yes.
The scenes,
Yes, they were.
The maps are solid. Like, details are great.
A lot of stuff going on in the background, and it didn't look chunky or slow. It's a very well put together and nice looking game. Now, do I think Resident Evil 7 probably looks better? Absolutely, and I haven't even seen that in motion yet, just screenshots.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you, because I have very little interest in playing Resident Evil 7. Horror is not my thing. I did play them back in the day, interestingly enough, but it doesn't draw me into walking around dark areas and just having to run away from people popping out at me.
I'm a survival horror geek. The fact that I don't already own this game is crazy. I've got a backlog that looks stupid right now, so I'm chomping at the bit to play it because it looks fantastic, and I've heard nothing but great reviews from everybody. So it looks very nice.
I haven't heard of a bad review. I've heard it is only a 12-hour game,
which is fine. I mean, the original Resident Evil was not much longer.
I did hear that the PSVR version will make you puke all over yourself.
I want to play it. It's the first VR game that I would really like to test out.
I don't want to get anything near it on a PSVR with that low resolution screen and with the controls. The way the control mechanisms are set up, the fact that you can move your body with a stick without moving is what totally F's up your equilibrium in your head and what causes you to be queasy. Because I haven't heard of a single person playing it that has said that they can play it for longer than like a 10 to 20 minute period before the nausea gets the best of them and they're like, nope, I gotta put it down. So, and we heard that at E3 when people were testing it out, and we're hearing it now with the game out. So I don't think that the VR portion of that game is completely thought out, and I also personally don't think that the PlayStation VR hardware is up to snuff for doing real VR. Even though hardware-wise, it is the most comfortable VR headset I've ever worn, but it is also the crappiest screen I've ever seen in a VR headset outside of a phone slid into a Google Cardboard.
Well, I mean, that's what makes it affordable. You know?
Yeah, to a degree. I would have paid them an extra $100 for them to slap a higher resolution screen in it. But the reason they didn't do that is because they don't have a PS4 that can power all those pixels.
Exactly. And that's
the real problem.
That's what keeps it affordable. You know, it would be nice for the PS4 to be a $2,200 PC that could just make your eyes bleed with graphical fidelity, but that's not what it is.
It isn't, but that's why I have my hopes set on Project Scorpio. I think it's going to be a beast.
But, you know, that's something I wanted to bring up today is your love for graphical fidelity over experience.
I mean, yeah, to a degree. For as you know, Jesse, I am a huge audio video file. As I said, I have a 4K OLED in my living room with the 5.1 setup. I have a theater room set up in my house with a 1080p projector and a 10.2 surround sound system. So yeah, audio fidelity and video fidelity are my jam, which is why I have an Xbox One S that can actually play 4K Blu-rays, unlike the PS4 Pro, which made that an easy decision as far as what console I was going to get. That no-brainer there. Sony missed the boat on that. That's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, I think as far as like gaming wise, I can get most of what I want to do, which is playing FIFA, and I want to shoot some people and play a few interesting games here or there, and I want it to look flippin' good doing it. So yeah, does Rocket League need to have the best graphics in the world? No. Have I seen it played on PC rigs that are all jacked up and at 120 frames per second? Does it look decent? Yes. Does it look fine on my PS4? Yeah. I mean, that game I don't care about, but like For Honor, for instance, looks amazing, and I love the look of it, and that is amazing. The only time where I would sacrifice fidelity a little bit is if you were going to give it to me on my iPad or give it to me on some sort of portable. Like if they were going to put 10 less NPCs on the screen and were able to port For Honor to the Switch, yeah, you could take my money, because that would be one hell of a portable game to have, in my opinion. So I'm kind of hoping that Ubisoft is planning on releasing this down the line on the Switch, because that would make my Switch purchase a lot more valuable. But for you,
I highly doubt that is going to happen.
I agree. The way that it looks, I was like, I don't think this has any chance of running on the Switch.
No, I don't think so.
And we'll talk more about the Switch later. But yeah, you care. Like, you buy a PS4 because you're like, well, I can't play The Last of Us on any other console, so I get PS4. I did that for the record, though. I did do that for MLB The Show, because that's the reason I have a PS4, because it's the only MLB game that exists. I shouldn't say that, because some of the new indie title MLB games have been equally as good. Why can't I think of the name? The cartoony one with the weird characters
that we played the other day.
Yeah, what is the name of that game? Damn it!
I don't know. I played it that one night with you. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, that baseball game's awesome. But yes, yeah, that's why I bought a PS4, and I got Last of Us with it, so I could play Last of Us. And as we talked about, I enjoyed the story, but I suck at video games.
So you're not alone in loving graphical fidelity and needing to know that the system you're buying has the most up-to-date chips and is going to run 60 frames per second, 1080p every game that comes out.
I mean, I'm not a frames per second chaser by any. I mean, if you want to be that guy, I mean, obviously you're a PC gamer and you're already doing it, and you get 120 frames per second and you have a 144 hertz monitor that costs you through the teeth because it's.
Well, no. Actually, see, I think you're wrong.
I mean, maybe
because I think those guys are the same guys that you are. They may be more hardcore and care about every game that comes out, but they're audio and video files. I think that you can boil it down to a more basic level. It's like, I think there's people out there that they want to know that their PS4 is faster than their Xbox One, so that's what they're going to buy. Whether that makes a big difference on their screen or not, they just want to know it, and right. That's all that matters. Is that they hear it from the marketing team that this is faster than the competitor.
That's why everybody bought a PS4 in the beginning, right? Outside of the marketing,
not the only reason, but
it was Sony marketed the fact that they could do games at a higher resolution than
that's true. Microsoft just messed up their entire marketing plan. That's hard to judge if that was the reason.
But it did prove your fact that people do care about specs. And they said, oh, well, the PlayStation's a gaming console, and I want a gaming console, and it's going to play games really good, right? That's what it was. And that's what people saw, and they said, okay, I want a gaming console. I don't care if I have all this streaming and all this stuff that Xbox is doing, and I can hook my TV up to it, and it's my end-all, be-all home theater experience, which I thought was cool and ambitious of Microsoft to do.
I agree.
And I thought the experience was actually kind of cool, and the idea behind it was really smart, but they, like we said, they didn't market it well enough. The fact that you could always be on your Xbox, and at any point in time you wanted to play a game, you could just say, Xbox, I want to play whatever. I want to play FIFA, and you could play FIFA. I love that, and the fact that I could watch TV in the corner and I could fill my ADD role and I could play a game of FIFA while watching a Chelsea soccer game.
That's what the Switch is going to fill in, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I want to sit on my couch and watch TV and play a game of Mario Kart or play some games of Splatoon. I love the idea of that.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped for Splatoon. But now that brings me to another point in this, is that Nintendo hasn't told us the specs of their system. And I highly doubt that they are going to tell us the specs of their system. But I will say this before we get into it. You said something a minute ago that rang with me, is people want to know that their system is going to play games, and it's going to play games really good. The Switch is going to play games, and it's going to play games really good. It is not going to play the most high fidelity games. It's not going to play For Honor, and that's fine. Breath of the Wild is still going to run and look beautiful. So Nintendo's really pushing that on us. Is like, look, our system plays games. You're going to have a lot of fun with it, and they're going to look good. You're not even going to complain about how they look. But we're not going to tell you that there's a Tegra X1 chip in here that is kind of old.
Yeah, I don't disagree entirely with that sentiment, but at their price point, it matters. Because at the price point that they are trying to compete with older consoles that are cheaper and can do more.
Form factor is the big thing here.
But they're solely relying on that form factor to be able.
Absolutely.
And the gimmick of what the Joy-Con, they call it again, the Joy-Con gimmick. Even though I think they're probably wonderful controllers.
It's a gimmick until we have it in our hands and it becomes a standard. So it's a gimmick right now.
Which is fine, but at the same time,
absolutely.
like, I sent you a text message earlier this week, and I said, hey, look, there's this awesome company that built these badass iPhone and iPad controllers that basically are an Xbox controller a la a Joy-Con on each side, and it clicks into an iPad, and it looks amazing, and that's $100. And that gives me an iPad, my iPad that I can play games on with a controller, which is kind of what I want. But
where are the games?
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't Super Mario one. We're not going to get regular Super Mario or anything else out there.
No.
So, yes, I mean that's where Sony relies on their titles to help drive through their consoles and get consoles sold at a profit. But I think that they're going to have to tread real carefully with their price points on this thing. When you talk about a $300 console that doesn't even come with a real controller built in, and everyone that I've talked to, all my friends that I've talked to that are ordering the Switch, are all like, yeah, I want the Pro controller, but it came on Amazon on like Wednesday of this week and was sold in like 15 seconds. And it was completely sold out, and it is a controller that costs $80 flippin' dollars.
Yeah, I don't see the need for it, but we've already discussed all this. I want to get back to this fidelity versus experience, because I think it's an important thing. I think it really there's like two divides of.
But that's my point. If you have a console to tie it in, that's $300 plus an $80 controller. You now have close to a $400 console.
But you don't need the Pro controller is nice. But the Joy-Con slotting into the grip is the same thing. Like, you can play your game, and trust me, no one out there is going to play over a 20-hour session, so the batteries are going to be fine. It's the same thing. It's just having, more... It feels... Nintendo is putting a dumb tax on this thing. But they're saying, we're already giving you the controller, but if you have to have something that feels traditional, then pay $80 because we don't think you need it, but we're going to make it and charge you for it.
But that goes back to my argument last week that they're marketing the console wrong. Because they're marketing it as a console. They're not marketing it as a portable. Your argument works perfectly if you're marketing the Nintendo Switch as a portable. But they're not. They're marketing it as a hybrid home game console that can be portable. So yes, if they marketed it as a portable and said here's a $250 portable device that you can buy, the dock's $80, the controller, if you need the dock and the controller, that's an extra $150 for the dock and the controller, and boom, you're off and running. And you can have the hybrid, but they're not. So you have to then say this is in line, this for quality and fidelity to tie this in. is this Switch is in turn competing with a PS4, a PS4 Pro, and an Xbox One S that are all priced the same or close to the same price. The Pro a little bit more expensive, but you can find for $450 on sale often. So tell me if you're just somebody that doesn't own if you don't own a console, it'd be rare. But I mean, if you're looking to buy a console, you have to then convince me that this Nintendo Switch is better than this PS4. And the only thing you could say is that this has some portability to it, and this is going to give you superior graphics.
And see, this is another thing with the fidelity versus experience. Is I'm talking experience as in the games themselves,
right?
So, like, I don't own an Xbox because the only experience that I want to have on it is Halo. I never enjoyed Gears of War, and Forza is not for me. And they don't have any other.
You're not talking experience. You're talking first party titles.
No, not necessarily, because Neo, which is coming out this month for the PS4, is a Team Ninja game funded by Sony, but it's not. It is a third-party game that is exclusive to the PlayStation 4. I want to play it. I played the beta last week. I want to own it, and I want to play the whole thing. So I'm talking about experience of a game. And to go back to the fidelity versus just the experience, I wanted to bring up a game called Thomas Was Alone, which is a 2D platformer that came out on the PS3, 360, Vita, and PC. And it's literally just a cube and a rectangle and not a cube, a square and a rectangle and a smaller square. It's just these shapes that have different abilities when you jump and platform. And it's all wrapped up in this minimalist look with this story that's being narrated behind each level. And it was an experience that just, I wasn't expecting it, first off. I started it up on the Vita, and 3 hours later I played the whole game. And for $10, that experience has stuck with me more than many AAA experiences I have played. So my argument between fidelity and experience is like, sure, For Honor is like one of the most beautiful looking games that I've seen in a very long time, but did playing it today suck me in so hard that I played through the entire, well, it was multiplayer, but where I'm sitting here talking about it 3 years later to somebody, I'm not sure For Honor will be that game for me, but this 2D platformer that was barely anything but some shapes pushed together stuck with me.
And that's great and all. And theoretically you could toss that game into an iPad and get the same experience.
Oh, well, absolutely. So what I really mean is, like, since we don't know what the specs inside the Switch are going to be, and most likely won't know until the day after it releases, and some blogger rips it apart and puts a magnifying glass up to the chips and says, "This is what's in here," and it won't matter, because they're going to put. I truly believe they're going to put games on there that are going to play well and they're going to resonate with you.
You say they, and you're talking about mainly Sony, but for somebody like me who sure wants to get his hands on Splatoon and a couple of Mario, even though I doubt I'll even get close to beating that whole game. But I mean,
I say they as Nintendo right now, because no third parties outside of Atlas have announced much for it. Atlas and Square Enix, and I'm excited about all the games they announced or even teased. I guess Atlas teased a new SMT game, and I'm excited about that. But that will be third party.
And but it's all of it is unique, smaller experiences. And what I'm looking
for, not at all. They're JRPGs. There's nothing unique or small. Well, there's something unique about it, but they're not small games. They're massively built games.
Yes, I mean, okay, so it's a poor choice of words, but it's not a game that requires a ton of GPU.
Processing power.
Yeah, like all I'm saying is that there's nothing like that game could run on an iPad at a higher resolution and be just fine as long as you Bluetooth any game controller to it.
Right, but until Apple wants to say, "Hey, Atlas, here's 2/3 of what you need financially to make this game and make it for our platform and charge $40 for it on the App Store," that's just never going to happen.
On a technical side, more convincingly, you'd have to convince them to write the game in OpenCL.
Well,
which is probably more the case as to why they wouldn't do it, or write specifically for Metal, which is something that they would have to do. But that's getting.
Well, the App Store market is why, no one wants to make a real game for it because nobody wants to pay more than $10 is pushing it. And $1 is pushing it, really. If it ain't free, people usually don't want it.
Yeah, but the amount of money they can make off in-app purchases and stuff like that is way more lucrative.
Well, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. But that's why this controller and your dream of playing games on the iPad, until that marketplace changes, it's never going to happen.
I don't disagree. Maybe there's an argument that could be made that if the Switch does that well, that maybe there's an argument to be able to make it for another tablet, because writing for the Tegra, I will have to, if we find out what's in it, the thing is, I can dive into the technical specs as to what they're using in it to see what it would take to then make it for an iPad. But I think that almost any game, we know any game running on it will run on an iPad for sure. It will be how easy it will be for that code to move over. But it will be interesting to see, because if it's easy to do, or if Apple makes it easy to do, it would be really interesting to see where the dynamic is with a game like FIFA that is going to be made for the Switch, that could be made for the iPad, and they do make a version of it for the iPad, to see if literally that parity starts to close, and we may see it may change mobile gaming. That's going.
Well, I mean,
that's going.
I hope that's what happens, and I think Nintendo hopes that's what happens too.
Yeah, because obviously, hardware-wise, with the Joy-Cons and everything, Nintendo will be ahead. I'm not. Don't send me hate mail, because I'm not going to argue that at all, because Nintendo has notoriously always made good hardware.
And on top of that, their gimmicks. Let's just, as a little sidebar here, their first gimmick, the D-pad. Their second gimmick, the L and R buttons on top of the Super Nintendo controller. Their third gimmick, the analog stick on Nintendo 64 controller.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so
that was still a funky ass controller.
It was a funky controller. The execution on the controller was
like, do I hold it this way? Do I hold it this way? I don't. Where do my hands?
I will have to say though, nothing felt more satisfying than pulling the trigger under the analog stick felt like a gun during playing GoldenEye.
That's true.
So they had something going on there, but Nintendo innovates, and they innovate well. Sometimes they miss.
Can I get a GoldenEye remake for the Switch? Just saying. Who made GoldenEye?
You can't, because Rare is owned by Microsoft, so that will never happen.
Oh, thanks for ruining my dreams.
Your dream and a million other people's dreams been ruined forever.
Yeah, that's sad.
That's never mind. I'll just throw it off. Never mind.
I don't know what else to say about that, but I'm not sure.
My point being is that Nintendo, if they strike gold with the Switch and change the direction of mobile gaming in that market, it is very possible that they could influence Apple to follow suit and Android to follow suit and say, we got to make controllers for our tablets that plug in on the end, and we actually have to start making real games for this thing.
But that's the thing, though. Like, they don't. It already exists. Like,
right, but it's not. It's got to be proprietary. I have to buy an Apple controller that is made by Apple standards.
Yeah, that would be unlike Apple to do. And Android, there's so much fragmentation in the Android market that it'd be like LG would do it, but it doesn't work with your Samsung. Or Samsung will do it, but it won't work with your Google Pixel. It's just like Google Daydream. It's like you can get Google
Well,
Daydream,
I guess you're right on the Android market.
Android's way too fragmented for that ever to happen. The mobile world is my wheelhouse because that's what I work in on a daily basis. So Android's way too fragmented for that to ever happen, and that was proved because this Nintendo Switch that's coming out is a flippin' NVIDIA Shield with Nintendo controllers on the end of it. That's literally all this thing is. And technically, the Shield, if you want to argue for it, was a better console as far as like competing because it was had of all of NVIDIA's juice in it, and you could stream a game straight from a PC onto it, and you could subscribe to a service and stream straight from the cloud and stream an NVIDIA 980 graphics card right down to your tablet. So that is probably a better.
Did you ever try any of the streaming services?
I never tried OnLive, but I heard it was crap. But at CES this year, NVIDIA is opening up what they just had for the NVIDIA Shield, which is only for the Shield and for, I think, their set-top box, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now they're opening that up to Macs and PCs, and they say, hey, you give us $20 a month, and you get so many hours of server space, and you can stream an NVIDIA 1060, an NVIDIA 1070, or 1080, and depending on what graphics card determines how many hours of gameplay you get out of that graphics card. So that is pretty badass for somebody that wants to play a game every once in a while on their Mac, because there's a lot of Mac people like me. I'm a Mac guy, but you just want to play a game every once in a while. And if you want to play a game every once in a while, and you have a nice internet connection, oh boy, that sounds awfully enticing if I have like an old MacBook Air. And
maybe if you lived in Kansas City and had Google Fiber, would it be feasible?
No, but all it requires is a 25 megabit download connection.
Well, yes, I know.
A lot of
requirement
people,
and what you really need to not have input lag that truly affects any kind of fast-moving game.
If they were playing it on the showroom floor of CES, where internet connection is very difficult to get a hold of, and it's split between thousands of vendors that are all pumping through the pipes there in Las Vegas. If it was working on that connection, and they're saying 25 megabits per second, I have no doubt in my mind that if somebody... Sure, if you have if that's all you have in your house, if you're getting 25 into your house, is it going to work? No. But if you're getting 100 down, like I am...
Okay, well, no, that's what I'm saying.
If you get 100 down, which isn't that hard to get... sorry, rural America, I know I'm excluding you because it is harder to get. But if you live in any regular-sized city, decently sized city in the U.S., be it St. Louis, Kansas City, or Oklahoma City, you have access to 100 down for less than $60 a month. Or for somewhere around 60 or less a month. And that's what people have. That's what I have. That's pretty much the norm in St. Louis.
That's what I have here in Kentucky.
Yeah, and you're...
And not in a major city. But if you drive 20 miles from my house, you don't got that. So
right, but you are rural America. Like, that is...
It is possible to get. You just got to live in rural America in a rich part of it. Which I do.
Sure, I mean... But that's the nature of the beast. But you're in Western Kentucky, and you're not in Paducah, which is the only real city in Western Kentucky. You guys in Kentucky like to call that a city. It is not a city. It is a strip mall. But
well, you've seen the wrong end of Paducah, but that's not what this show is about.
But it's possible, and it's possible in a lot of places. And if you talk about what's happening with mobile, in that we are only 3 or 4 years away we're going from 4G LTE to 5G, which 5G is going to give basically the entire country gigabit internet to their cell phones wirelessly. it could the landscape of gaming could change very quickly. And this is where I think Microsoft's head was at when they were building the Xbox One, and they were way ahead of the time.
They were. Microsoft pulled the Sega.
They were one generation. Yeah, that's exactly what they did, because they were one generation ahead of where they needed to be.
Yep, just like the Dreamcast and just like the Sega Saturn. You can't do that.
I owned a Sega Saturn. How about that for a casual gamer?
Jealous.
Right? I don't know anyone else that ever owned a Sega Saturn, but I owned a Sega Saturn.
I did not. I've had pretty much every other console in between there, but I missed out on the Saturn.
That's my claim to fame of being a hardcore, as close as I've come to being a hardcore gamer. I couldn't.
Now, if you actually owned some of the games for it, that would be exciting.
I did, but I don't anymore. I'm pretty sure all of those games. I was a kid. All those DVDs like have like names engraved into the bottom of them at this point, and just look like somebody keyed them.
So,
but yeah, that graphic.
We should
fidelity.
probably talk about the other games that are coming out this month alongside For Honor.
Okay.
We have Neo.
I didn't know there were other games coming out besides For Honor, because that was the only one I cared about.
Well, now hold on. You care about having a Nintendo game on your iPhone. Fire Emblem Heroes is coming out this month. On iOS and Android.
I need you to explain this to me, because you put this on the agenda for today, and I did see the news highlight this week that was coming out, and I was like, cool. What the hell is that game? So I figured I'd wait till today, and I'd say, all right, Jesse, tell me about Fire Emblem and why I care about it.
Why do you care about it? I'm not sure that you specifically do.
Okay, well, sell it to me. Sell me on this game, because I'll spend a few bucks on it to give it a shot.
So what it is a tactical RPG. So it's, to boil that down to layman's terms, it's chess. You go against, you have your characters, and they're all on this grid, and the AI has characters on the other side, and you select a character, and it shows you can move this many spaces, and so you move to where you want to move, and everyone positions themselves, and then everyone has attacks. Like, some people are archers, so they can attack from further away, or sword play, where you have to be up close. And so that's what Fire Emblem is altogether. So what Fire Emblem Heroes is taking the main characters, or the big characters from the entire lifetime of the series, and boiling down the maps to, I think it's 10 by 6, a 10 by 6 grid. I could be wrong on that, so don't take my word for it. But It is a smaller grid than what a Fire Emblem on the 3DS or the DS or the Super Nintendo or whatever you had played it on before. And it just takes that experience and boils it down to something that you can sit down and you can play in a 10-minute stretch instead of an hour-long stretch.
That seems somewhat interesting, but to me, how different is that than Pokemon Duel? Because Pokemon Duel looks similar to what you just described, and I don't know if I want to play this or not, but I did just download it because I had forgotten it was available this past week, I think.
Pokemon Duel?
Yeah, Pokemon Duel. Check that out.
I'm looking it up.
You didn't even know this existed.
No, because I don't play games on my phone, and I never will. Like,
who didn't play Pokemon Go for at least a week?
I did not.
What?
I didn't. It was never on my phone. I never downloaded the app. I watched people play it, and I was just not interested.
I played it for a couple weeks, and I went to the park.
If they had fleshed out the battling system in it, and it felt like I caught this Pokemon, and now I can level it up and go and battle people, and if it had been a real game, I would have played it.
You mean if they had fleshed it out, like, way before they released it and had things working, like telling you where Pokemon were and had a battle?
So basically what Pokemon Go was geocaching for Pokemon.
No, you know,
with no game wrapped around it. It is just geocaching.
No, you know,
which is cool. I love geocaching. I think that's great.
You know what it was a re-wrapper of a Google game.
Yep. Yes, it was. What was it called?
I can't remember now, but it was way cooler than Pokemon Go. It was like a sci-fi game, but they literally, the same company made it, and they and they literally took that game and Nintendo gave them graphic assets, and they just dumped that game on top of it, and that was it. And that's what it was. And they said, release it, and I'm like, and they didn't think about anything because they didn't. Yeah, that was a really poorly released game, because they would have released that game properly, it would have been badass and would have made even more money than it did, even though it made a ton of money in the month that it was successful. But it would have continued to be successful had they had everything vetted out. But yeah, some mobile
possibly. I don't believe an experience on our phones can be more successful than a month to a month and a half before people move on.
So were you not playing Fire Emblem?
Well, I loved the 3DS titles. I won't play Fire Emblem Heroes because, number one, it's on my phone, and it's a boiled down experience of something that I've already enjoyed. And there's a Fire Emblem game coming on the Switch. When it comes out, it's a fully featured game, and I'll buy that.
All right, I hate to off track us, but what about the fact that so you just said you won't play it because it's a boiled down version of it, of another game. What about the fact that probably a lot of the titles that we're going to get from third parties on the Switch are going to be boiled down versions of the PS4 and Xbox One versions of it?
And I won't buy those. I won't buy them. Unless a third party is making an original game for the Switch, I'm not going to buy it on the Switch. That's stupid. That is not the way to make money on it. The Switch is not a system to port Call of Duty next year or For Honor. Third party developers have to develop from the ground up. They have to say, all right, this is how the Switch works. This is the chip that it's built with. We need to build games for the people that own this system, and not what we just released 6 months ago on the PS4.
Do you know what will be interesting to see is how many ported versions of mobile phone games are going to get ported over to the Switch.
I don't think that we'll see a lot of that. Because if we were going to see that, then Nintendo would have held off and said, you know what, we'll just put Mario Run as a $10 app on the Switch. And kept it in their own ecosystem instead of allowing it to be on the App Store.
I don't. Why is that when there are hundreds of millions of iPhones and Android devices out there that can?
It was such a struggle for Nintendo to ever come to that if they had planned on putting Mario Run or any type of phone or tablet-esque game on the Switch, they would have just said, hold up, we got this coming out in less than a year. Why would we ever give it to Apple?
Why? Shareholders.
But no, I understand that, but Nintendo has historically just done what they wanted to do either way.
Yeah.
So
it's a crunch time for them. It is a crunch time for a Japanese company that is thrived off the Japanese culture is very heavily I want to say prideful, but I'm not sure if that's a word, but they're so full of pride, and they really thrive on success, and they need those successes just like stock markets need successes to be able to continue to be a successful company. Otherwise, you dwindle down into nothing. And even if you have a ton of money stockpiled, if your stock is continuing to shrink, your company is going to fail regardless. So you have to do something to fix that. And I think a lot of that was conceding the fact that the Wii U wasn't as successful as it needed to be. And so they realized they needed some cash flow, and doing some mobile apps was a way to get some positive cash flow.
It's possible. It's just hard to know exactly what's going on with any of that, because it's not like they didn't have a moneymaker. The 3DS was printing money and still is. And that's, like I said it last week, and if I get a chance, I'll say it next week. that's the reason they're not marketing the Switch as a portable just yet. Just wait. Just wait.
Sure.
Once they put the Switch or the 3DS to bed, then we'll see that.
It will be interesting to see if that happens. I am excited to see if that happens, actually. But let's finish up. Let's wrap up the last few games that we know that are coming out.
One worth mentioning is Horizon Zero Dawn, new title by Guerrilla Wars. They are famous from Killzone titles, so very well-known name in gaming. It looks fun. It's this open world, like post-apocalyptic thing where you're living in this world where you're fighting like mechanical dinosaurs, and you have So like it's this post-apocalyptic game, and you have to take down these mechanical robotic dinosaurs and take parts from them to craft your new gear or whatever. And it looks really nice. Guerrilla Wars has historically made beautiful games for the PlayStation platform, so I think it'll end up looking pretty good. There haven't been any betas or demos to play as of yet, but this game comes out near the end of the month, so there's still a chance for that. Neo, another PlayStation game, being created by Team Ninja, who made Ninja Gaiden for the original Xbox, which is one of the hardest games ever made, like until the Souls games came out. And Team Ninja,
I really liked Ninja Gaiden until I realized that it was unplayable. But
it's hard.
I loved the premise of the game, and but yes, impossible.
So what they have done is, Team Ninja likes to make hard games, and they kind of fell out of it for the last 5-6 years, and so they're taking some notes from Software and making a Dark Souls-esque game set in feudal Japan, but instead of they changed it. It's very Team Ninja. I played the beta last week, the Last Chance Trial, I believe it was called, and it was faster than the Souls games. Artistically, I enjoyed the feudal Japan a whole lot more, fighting Japanese monsters and samurai. I thought that was pretty fun. It looks like a pretty neat game. Totally not up your alley. No. Difficult. But it's coming out. And then maybe you can tell me more about this next one. I don't know if you played the first one or not, but Halo Wars is coming out on the Xbox.
We saved the best for last. I didn't personally get into Halo Wars, but Halo Wars 2 is coming out, and it has to be the biggest of all four of these games coming out, popularity-wise, this month.
You say that, but it is an RTS, so that's not a very popular genre.
But a lot of Halo folks still love this game. So
tell me more about it, because
I didn't. The real RTSs are not my cup of tea.
See, I love RTSs. I've just never really owned an Xbox, so I don't know much about the Halo Wars series.
It's literally an RTS around Halo, and from what I understand, it is a pretty good RTS.
Cool.
But it's not my cup of tea, so I'm not gonna talk out of my butt and pretend like I know.
Are you not gonna pick it up and give it a try? Are you not gonna buy it?
No. I won't be playing that game. If I'm buying any game this month, it's For Honor, for sure.
Gotcha.
Which will give me plenty of gameplay up until we get
Zelda.
Well, I'll buy Zelda. I don't know how much I'll play Zelda, but we'll see. I was more thinking of Mario Kart.
Gotcha. Mario Kart 8 was a good one. I put a lot of time into it. You'll enjoy it.
I think so. It looks fun. I'm excited for that, and then Splatoon's a little bit after that, and then I get into FIFA season, and then that's usually my cycle. And then, the other game that should be coming out in does it come out in Feb? Does it come out in March? MLB The Show 2017 will be coming out shortly. Let's see when that comes out. I know that the dev videos have started, and I get really excited because I do watch all of the dev videos for MLB The Show leading up to the game to see what they're all doing. So that's an end of March game, March 28th.
Well, the game that I will probably end up picking up very soon is probably Resident Evil 7.
I don't know why I haven't played it yet. I've been watching that online, and
I'm in the middle of Deus Ex: Mankind Divided right now, and until I finish that, I'm not buying another game.
Let me ask you, would I like that game?
Deus Ex: Mankind Divided?
Yes. It's always intrigued me, but I was never been sure if I would like the Deus Ex games.
So what they are first-person simulators. Is I guess the best way to describe it. So in Deus Ex, you're an augmented human. So you're like you're basically a cyborg, and you can choose to play this game super stealthy, where you look for every secret access to get around the enemies, and you hack the computers, and you do everything like non-lethal. You don't kill people, and that's how I'm playing right now. And that's how I played its predecessor, Human Revolution. But you can also play it, just go in and just rip and tear and kill everything that gets in your way, and use these badass
that's
augmentations on your body where you basically just have swords pop out of your wrists and you're slicing people up, or you just shoot these steel balls out of your chest, or you just jump up and I think you would enjoy playing it that way.
That's how I would play that game.
So, I mean, if you can pick it up for $20, you're going to enjoy it. It's got a fun story. It looks really good.
Is it a multi-platform game, or is it a PS4 only?
Multi-platform.
Okay. That gives me some flexibility. I can check Steam, too, because sometimes you get some really good Steam deals if it's on PC.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes what I do. So, all right. That is interesting. That wasn't on the agenda for today, but fun fact. That's how I learned about video games, because that's why I'm the casual gamer. All right, well, if you hung out with us this long, I'm sorry, but thank you for watching. If you want to get in touch with us, leave a comment on YouTube, or go ahead and find us on Twitter. We are HCVS versus CG on Twitter and at Gmail. I think I got that right. So search for us, and I'll put links in the description to that so that you can find us. But thanks so much for joining us, and everyone, have a great week.
Good night.